How has participation in the Mathematics Network improved your content knowledge and understanding of the standards?
I have a much deeper understanding of the new standards. There's a lot of content that wasn't there before, and I have a deeper understanding of the content, just an increased awareness of the standards. I know what a learning target is now, and I'm more focused on creating learning targets for my students and making them aware of what it is I expect them to learn.
In what ways do you believe you have impacted other teachers in your school and or district?
I am part of the teacher leaders in my district. I do help provide trainings. We do vertical alignment meetings, and so I've helped implement PD. I've shared formative assessment lessons with a lot of the teachers in the district. I even invited one of the middle school teachers over into my classroom with some of her advanced students, and Charles came down and we kind of did a little tag team session and implemented some files that way. I guess I've tried to be a good role model in the district and to do all the things that we should do.
Hi, Jeannie.
Hi, Mike.
How has your classroom practice been influenced by participation in the Mathematics Network?
Well, probably my two biggest influences would be that I've incorporated standards-based grading in one of my classes, and that is an idea that has been presented by a couple of people from the network. And so what I've done is I've broken my test down into learning targets, and then students take the test, and if they're not successful on a particular target or more, then they can remediate and retake the test on just those targets. And so when I look at my grades in those classes where I've incorporated this kind of grading, I feel really good about it. So I feel like a 92% really means 92% mastery. There are no really other grades than just the assessment. And like I said, I think students feel not as pressured because they know that, you know, if they don't perform well, that they have a second chance. And it's worked really well.
How have your students been impacted by what you've experienced in the Math Network?
Well, of course, the standards-based grading, and I'd say something else I've really enjoyed incorporating is the formative assessment lessons. I try to do one of those every unit. And a nice thing about those lessons are I had to get over that idea that every student has to do everything. The way those lessons are set up, you know, usually it's a sorting activity. And what I do is I start everybody with the basic cards. And then some groups move on to like the third set or the fourth set of cards, and other groups don't. You know, and that's okay. But everybody gets a high-level thinking activity out of it. And so I've really enjoyed those formative assessment lessons.
And how have your students been impacted by what you've experienced in the Mathematics Network?
I think when you look at the mathematical practices, it really encourages you to get the kids involved at every level of the learning. And so questioning has gotten better, use of manipulatives, application lessons. So not that we are at distinguishment, because of course we're just striving for that. But as we continue to work through each one of the sessions in Math Network, we have more things to take back, more resources, more websites, because that's what falls short in a teacher's life is time. And so when someone else will find the resources for us and point us to them, we're hungry for them and we'll use them, but we just have to have some help in getting to those sites. And that's definitely impacted my students in all levels of remediation, enrichment, and enhancement, because we can't leave any piece of the puzzle out in order to help them.
Hi, Monica.
Hi.
In what ways do you believe you've impacted other teachers in your district and or school?
Well, I think through our PLCs, I share what I learn here and anything that we're working on. For example, assessments, I share formative or summative assessments or aligning them, and just in general looking at the way students have performed and then the next steps we need to take. I think that's one way I've impacted. And also sharing the FOULs. I know that our whole grade level has implemented those, and then we've brought back the feedback on those. So, and then also, I'm the chair of our report card committee, so we're completely redoing our report card and moving towards standards-based, and I think that has all come from being part of the network.
How has participation in the Mathematics Network improved your content knowledge and understanding of the standards?
Okay, it has helped me understand, especially the deconstruction of the standards. I recently moved into Algebra 2, which was a subject that I haven't taught for several years, so that definitely helped my content knowledge and increasing and going through that process.
In what ways do you believe you've impacted other teachers in your school and or district?
We have implemented the FOUS, like especially this year and last year, and I have brought knowledge that I've learned here, that I have gained, and shared with them, and we work together. And I've also shared with other people here, and so I feel like it has really helped.
Hi, Tatiana.
Hi.
How has your classroom practice been influenced by the participation in the Mathematics Network?
I am definitely more aware of the standards, and I use them a lot more when I'm planning my lessons, and try to learn a lot of what I've learned here and use it in my classroom. A lot of the activities that we've learned, and align them with the standards now, and just more aware of what I'm doing and focusing on getting the standards into my lessons.
And how has participation in the Mathematics Network improved your content knowledge and understanding of the standards?
I have them on my desk now, and I look at them while I'm planning my lessons, and I understand them more deeply than I did before I participated in this, and I kind of have a better idea of where we're going and where they came from in the grades behind us. So.
And in what ways do you believe you've impacted other teachers in your school or district?
I have been able to help, especially teachers in my grade level, when they don't understand, you know, what the standard is asking or what it's expecting of us, then I'm able to kind of help explain what we've learned here, you know, about what the standards mean and how you can use them in your classroom.
Hi, Arlene.
Hi, how are you?
Doing all right, thank you. How has your classroom practice been influenced by participation in the Mathematics Network?
Well, I feel like I'm a lot more aware of how assessments play a part in the classroom, and catching something in formative assessment can really make a big difference in the summative and the overall, like, end of course and ACT type questions and tests that we have, because I think more concentration on those formative assessments can really help out.
How has participation in the Mathematics Network improved your content knowledge and understanding of the standards?
As an education recovery specialist and a content specialist with one of the special ed co-ops, I think it really helped me to see how other teachers in schools were learning about the standards and using the standards and developing that proficiency in their students and working with their curriculum. It helped me to get a better understanding outside of my comfort zone in mathematics and look at other grade levels and see how everything is changing and where the shifts are occurring, so that when I'm working with teachers I can better communicate it.
Are there other ways you believe you've impacted teachers in your school or district?
These sessions have been great, and you hear so many different ideas. The presentation, you know, all the different ways to ensure that there is congruency within your instruction and your assessment, and make sure that everything is aligned, but also the different instructional strategies and ways of monitoring students and analyzing student work, to be able to take that back and share that with other teachers who aren't able to attend the network sessions. They found it to be very helpful.
Hi, Kristen.
Hi.
How has your classroom practice been influenced by participation in the Mathematics Network?
I feel like I do a much better job at trying to make things more rigorous and focusing more on student-focused learning instead of me just delivering a lesson or delivering procedures for how to do things and then expecting the kids to do it. I give them more opportunities to focus on what they think they should do to solve a problem instead of me just drilling procedures and then expecting them to be able to do whatever I tell them to do.
Hi, Jeanette.
Hello there.
In what ways do you believe you have impacted other teachers in your school or district?
Okay, by attending the network, we were able to be introduced into the formative assessment lessons, which we have taken those back to our districts, and we first tried those in the classroom and made adjustments, what we felt necessary, and then we did some special trainings throughout our district and passed those along to the other teachers as well.
And how have your students been impacted by what you've experienced in the Mathematics Network?
through the pre-test and the formative assessment lesson, the layout of the plans, we have been able to encourage the students to take risk and become independent thinkers. They're less likely to be dependent upon the teacher. They're willing to take some risk of their own and learn from each other, working in smaller groups and leading their own learning. So that's been a big impact in the classroom so far.
You've impacted teachers in your school or district?
I think so. Learning the new standards is a big task. It's hard to get every teacher on board, but I think finally this year everybody kind of understands. We've taken, the last 2 years to introduce them to the mathematical practices and to bring new techniques, and we've deconstructed the standards, and I think finally this year they're able to kind of tie all that together and use it in their classroom, and where we've taken it at a slower, I think in the beginning we jumped in so quick, but now we've kind of slowed down and looked at why the mathematical practices are so important with these standards and using them in your classroom. And I think now our teachers are really more aware of different techniques, different practices, but also have a better, deeper understanding of the mathematics.
How have you seen this impacting your students?
Well, it has definitely, I think, pushed them more so than they thought that they could be pushed. Since I'm at the end of the line, I haven't yet quite seen, since we just implemented this 2 years ago, I haven't gotten to see the effect of the new standards on the kids that are coming to me, because the kids that have come to me haven't been taught under the new standards. That will be next year. So it will be interesting to see if the kids next year have a better knowledge base than the ones that I have right now.
I love it. How has your classroom practice been influenced by participation in the Mathematics Network?
Well, if you compared my classroom today as 2-3 years ago, it would be totally different. I've used this term before, hope and pray, stand and deliver, hope and pray they get it. But now with all the different things we've gone over, formative assessments, the FALs, and the stuff I've acquired from other places, it's totally different. And the student success rate is
How
off
has
the charts.
participation in the Mathematics Network improved your content knowledge and understanding of the new standards?
A whole lot, because as a special ed major, I didn't really know too much about mathematics. It's never really been my strong suit, so just kind of, I still don't understand it, and I still sit there confused, but start to understand and see the breadth of knowledge that all goes into it.
So you mentioned working with in classrooms with classroom teachers. So what other ways do you think you've impacted other teachers in your district or school?
Just we have early release days, and we get to discuss with teachers about SITs and just different things that we've taken from the cadres here and just pass it on to them. And just daily conversations. One of the math teachers I work with, I get to discuss with her some of the things we've learned here.
Natalie Leet, Fleming County.
Okay, here's our interview questions. How has your classroom practice been influenced by participation in the Mathematics Network?
My classroom, the whole classroom environment has changed tremendously. Before the network, I was more of a stay and deliver teacher, tried to get in some group work, as much as possible whenever I could. But since I've been involved in the network, I've implemented FALs, formative assessment lessons, into my instruction regularly. And even on non-FAL days, I'm doing more group instruction where the students are doing the learning, and I'm acting more as a facilitator.
I'm Jamie Peterman from Ashland Independent, Verity Middle School.
Great. How has your classroom practice been influenced by participation in the Math Network?
Well, I used to be strictly by the textbook teacher, and now I employ a lot more of the mathematical practices, and my students are more active in the classroom.
Great. How has participation in the Math Network improved your content knowledge and understanding of the standards?
A great deal. One example in particular was the standard on teaching congruence and similarity using transformations. I'd never put those two together and realized how they were related, and now that's how I teach, similarity and congruence.
My name is James Hay. I work at McBrayer Elementary in Rowan County, and I teach 5th grade.
Great. How has your classroom practice been influenced by the participation in the Math Network?
Well, my classroom practice has been influenced by being given a deeper understanding of the standards, the Common Core standards, and instructional practices in math.
And in what ways do you believe that this has impacted other teachers in your school or district?
Well, we're given the opportunity after we go to these meetings in the network to go back and share all of this information with other teachers in our district and our school. So hopefully by us getting a better understanding of the new instructional practices and standards, we're able to share that with other teachers so they can implement it in their classrooms.
Great. Do you believe it has impacted other teachers in your school or district?
As a district, I think it's impacted the teachers in that I've gotten to use some of the work that we've done here at our content meetings with our mathematics study groups for elementary grades. And with that work, it's helped the teachers to look more in depth at the standards and to see if the materials and resources that they use are congruent with the standards.
Good. Hi,
I'm Kim Elam. I represent Rowan County Schools as their math curriculum specialist for the district.
Great. And for the interview questions, how has your classroom practice been influenced by participation in the Math Network?
Well, I think that I now think more in depth about my instruction with students and with teachers as well.
My name is Linda Montgomery, and I am employed by Morehead State University as the regional coordinator for the Kentucky Center for Mathematics, which is a mouthful. And this coming to these meetings has benefited me in several ways. A big one is just being able to talk with teachers and get an idea of what goes on in their classrooms and the struggles they have, and then be able to use that as I think about things to do. Also, it provides information for me that I can then pass on to my students, and wonderful activities that are useful for my teachers. My teachers are all math intervention teachers, but they can do in small groups a lot of these different activities and these ideas that
First question is, how has your classroom practice been influenced by the participation in the Math Network?
It has completely changed the way I teach. I would say I wouldn't ever say I was a traditional teacher. I facilitate, I guess is what I would say. I have come to the understanding that students need to come to their own understanding of math other than me giving it to them. I think Vonda one time said, question, question, question. She never teaches. She always answers a child with a question. And I see myself and catching myself do that. It's completely changed my teaching.
Good. Good.
I'm Carol Stevens. I teach at Russell High School, Russell Independent Schools.
In what ways do you believe that you've impacted other teachers in your school or district?
I don't know about the way I've impacted it. I think the biggest thing that has been a plus is through this, we've been able to meet with our middle school teachers through some vertical teaming in our district, and just having that communication about what they do in their classrooms. How can we make the bridge to high school a lot easier? And so we've had a lot of communication that way. And so I don't know if I've personally impacted a teacher, but I think it's just been able to talk about what the standards have changed, how Algebra 1 is now 8th grade in math. And so we've been able to communicate a lot more. So
that's good.
Russell Independent Schools, middle school, 7th and 8th grade.
Okay. For their interview questions, how has your classroom practice been influenced by your participation in the Math Network?
Well, I've become better at questioning strategies for sure. I lead the kids to where I want them to go rather than just take them at my speed at their time. So questioning's definitely improved. And the use of the FOUL lessons, I'm getting better at allowing them to struggle a little bit with that. In the beginning, they didn't want to struggle, and I tended to jump in too quickly, but now I'm getting better at that. I think they're becoming more independent.
We're letting our teachers see that mathematics can be fun and that they need to teach it fun. It's not just, as Tammy talked about earlier, parent talk. It's really students talking and solving and struggling with mathematics. And we're trying to move our teachers from the old transition of parent talk to letting the students work with mathematics and beginning to love mathematics.
Well, great. Are there other ways that you've seen students being impacted by the experiences from the Math Network?
I think the FOWLs has really made a big impact. The coaches and I have gone into the classrooms and modeled the FOWLs and let the teachers watch us model the FOWLs and see the students struggling and trying to solve the problems, and not us there always looking for the one correct answer. And then coming together and looking at all the different strategies. So I think that's really impacted our students, and then they can really say, I can do math. I do love math.